is going on, everybody? Welcome in to the North End Podcast, episode 116. My name is Zach Graham, your host here in the North End, joined, as always, by my good buddy. This is a throwback there, to episode 1. It's the E&Me Show. He's on record as my best friend, and we call him E, a.k.a. E. James, a.k.a. Sebastian Drew, EC, a.k.a. Eastradamus, a.k.a. Pap E. O'Daniel, a.k.a. The Fashionista, a.k.a. Chili Willy, a.k.a. Joey Chestnut, a.k.a. Eon Stonkel. I'm sitting here, beautiful week of weather in Austin, Texas, and I have been able to enjoy none of it. My third bout with COVID, but considering that you had COVID at some point last year and didn't miss an episode, could not miss this one, episode 116 of the North End Podcast. Plenty to talk about here, but as I always ask you, how are you feeling, my friend?
I'm doing well, man. I want to take this quick moment to shout out one of our new listeners, Damon. We have told you about the pod no less than 35 times at the games. You seem to be maybe a little too inebriated to recall, but yes, we have told you. You got your text. Wow, episode 115. Where have I been? I don't know, man. But glad you're on board with us here. Looking forward to seeing you, brother. ZG still undefeated versus COVID, I hope. You know, we got this one kind of winding down here. So pushing through it. The pod must go on. The amateur analysis, it must continue.
Indeed. I was laughing pretty hard when we got that text from Damon because obviously one of our mates in section 123, it's like all the North End listeners know about Damon, but Damon, until last week, apparently didn't know about the pod. So we welcome in our good buddy Damon and the rest of you. And before we jump into all that we have to talk about today, we want to remind everybody, if you've got 5 extra seconds, take that 5 extra seconds, rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're watching on the YouTube channel, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell to know when a live stream pops up or a new episode goes live. And of course, on this episode, hit that like button, hit the thumbs up, help us battle the YouTube algorithm overlords, atone for your sins, wash yourselves clean in the crumbs of the North End. Let's jump in to the Austin FC portion of the preseason podcast. We are not that far away from introducing the nonsense back into the run sheets. We've got the best ball draft is being scheduled. I guess we'll go. Let's announce this right now.
Yeah.
2 expansion teams coming to the Verde Best Ball League here in 2024. First, the head of Verde all day, everybody's favorite Austin FC journalist, Phil West, will have a team in the Best Ball League this year. That's going to be a new challenge for everybody who was already in the league. And then our buddies from the Verde Pendant, all 3 of the Verde Pendant boys will join us for the draft. So 6-team league this year. Of course, Texas Ring of Fire, We Are Austin TV, Moon Tower Soccer, going to be back defending their crown here in year 2 of the Best Ball League. And of course, all of our other stuff coming down the pike. Couple guests hopefully getting scheduled here as well. So just going to stick with the MLS news at the end of the podcast today. Austin FC, of course, up first. And the first thing to talk about, we'll kind of go a little bit chronologically here, at least to start. We recapped the Philadelphia preseason match on last week's episode, but the team took on FC Cincinnati on Friday morning out there in Florida, concluding their trip with a 2-1 preseason victory over the defending Supporter Shield winning FC Cincinnati. And we'll talk about the second half. It was kind of FC Cincinnati too there in the second half. But first half lineup, we saw essentially the second half lineup from the Philly match ran out there in the first half against Cincinnati with just one change. And that change was a big one. Up top, we saw the preseason debut of Jassy Zardes up there starting at striker. So as expected, as we discussed on last week's episode, putting him in bubble wrap for that first preseason match, a little bit of calf tightness, managing the minutes of the veterans, of everybody right now on the team. Nobody has played more than 45 minutes in any of these matches. So G was out there with Rigoni on the left, Hodder Obrian on the right, Val Noel in that Driussi spot playing the 10. Behind Val, you had Danny in front of Johan Valencia, and then that back line left to right of Hector Jimenez, Sal Mazzaferro, Julio Cascante, and Alonso Ramirez lining up at right back. Once again, Brad Stuver started in net. And, man, of course, with these Florida games, we're relying on the Austin FC media team, right, to give us updates. We're looking at the FC Cincinnati live blog, and the Cincinnati blog had some delays due to some Wi-Fi issues in Al Lang Stadium out there in St. Petersburg. So it was a little choppy with the information coming in, but the first thing we did learn, Austin FC with the early goal. Nice Hodder Obrian cross, sweeping cross from right to left, finding the head of Valentin Noel. They're looking like right on the left side of the 6 there, and he heads it back across the face of net and past everybody. It was a goal. A little bit of a whiff there from Mimi Rigoni trying to tap it home, but it went over the line either way. And so we will take that 1-0 Austin. And then you look at this Cincinnati lineup on the other side. Lucho Acosta, reigning MVP. Roman Celentano, one of the top young rising goalkeepers in the league. Obviously, we snuck one past him there at the beginning. Aaron Bupenza up at the top. I think Nwobodo was out there. We had Miles Robinson out there. Miles Robinson was paired on a back line with Kip Keller, which was interesting to see some of those pictures come out. And they did equalize, I believe, 7 minutes later. Lucho to Bupenza. Got a friendly bounce for Cincinnati there in the box, but equalized. And that was the score line going into the half. I know we saw some clips from that. So any takeaways from you about on the first half of last week's match?
Not much. Good to see G out there. Glad Val got on the score sheet there. That's awesome. I'm a big Alonso Ramirez fan, man, and I'm really liking these minutes that he's getting in these matchups. I know it's probably based on just necessity and the fact that we're a little thin right now, but that's great experience for the kid. I think he's a very good player. I don't know where he ends up, but I'm just really excited for him.
Yeah, I think I would echo that sentiment, not just for Alonso, but for all of the young guys that are getting this time out here. And we'll talk more about them and maybe their chances, right? We've talked about it before, their chances to impress enough for a first team deal. Second half lineup. Again, you got most of that first half lineup from the Philly match running out there in the second half here against Cincinnati. With one change, Sebastian Pignot did not play in this match. FC2 loanee Chris Garcia got the start at the 9 in the second half. He was then replaced by Jimmy Farkaloon, I want to say with like 15 minutes or so remaining in this one. So he was flanked by CJ on the left, Ethan Finley on the right, Seba at the 10. Behind him, Owen Wolff in front of Alex Ring, and then the back line from left to right of Gallagher, Hedges, trialist Antonio Gomez, and then Sheikh Touré on the right, Stephen Cleveland in net. And like I mentioned earlier, FC Cincinnati ran out literally, I think like 9 of their 11 guys were Cincinnati 2 players. So Austin does end up getting a second goal here. They don't concede one, so they 2-1 victory, as they should. I was honestly looking for a little bit more out of that second half, considering who we had out there, but with no actual eyes on the match, I imagine they got that second goal. Didn't press too much after that, given the non-stakes of the match. But we did get a few minutes to view that highlight because it was subsequently taken down off of Twitter. But we know how the goal was scored. It was a CJ Fodre assist, skipping across the box. I think took a deflection or two, falls to the feet of number 10, and Driussi slots it home. It did kind of look to me like this was off of a set piece, because CJ was on the right side here, and he is, I think it's fair to say he's a stranger to that right side on the wing. And you could see it in the clip. He went all left there, did not take a touch with his right foot. You also see when the camera pans towards the box, Matt Hedges was up there. So I think this was a set piece and a successful one for Austin. Seba getting on the board for the first time in the preseason, 2-1 victory. I like to see it.
Yeah, man, it's good. Obviously, they're rotated there in that second half with some FC2 guys there. But still, a great club. The Supporter Shield winners last year, they're a talented team. And this is all about reps right now. Preseason soccer, it's difficult, man. Like, you got to run a lot, you got to do a lot, and the most important thing here is to keep everyone safe and healthy. So I'm glad that we walked out of there, no injuries, 2-1. That's kind of a little frosting on the cake there for me. So we'll absolutely take that.
Yeah, and then the armband watch continues.
Yeah.
And now that we are 10 days, almost 2 weeks, I think, out from the first kind of confusing non-answer from Coach Wolff, where he did not commit, the easy yes answer for Seba continuing to be the captain in both of these matches. The half that Driussi was out there, he wore the armband. The half that Julio Cascante was out there, he wore the armband. So at this point, man, I think I'm actually if I had to put out a call today saying who is going to be the captain on February 24th at Q2 Stadium, I think it might just be Driussi.
I'm going to say it's going to be Julio.
Okay. All right.
I just think that there's been, I think the non-answer from Josh, it seems like we're doing kind of trial runs here, trying to see how it works out. But again, when we look through, reading between the lines with things that Josh has said about like Seba concentrating on scoring goals for us, concentrating on being the best player he has, I think that kind of lends a little bit of value to the argument that Julio may get it. Now, I'll be fine with either guy. I'm on the record, though, saying that I would not want 10 in that position, but I'm not going to, throw a fit about that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I guess we'll have to see. Maybe we have a captain's armband prop in our over/under competition here in a few weeks.
There we go.
We'll see. As long as we don't have the answer before then. And we don't have a ton of answers about this coming Saturday either. Louisville City coming to town and, super hyped up. Verde Hill, we're going to see all our friends. We're going to take the binoculars. We're going to get some live crumbs. And then the club says, no Hill for you. This match will take place at Q2. I have heard 2 p.m. on a start time for that, and it will be closed door at the stadium for the club's corporate sponsors. So, I hate to see it, but somebody's got to think of the corporate sponsors, I guess. So they're going to get a show.
Yeah, they're definitely needy. We're sponsors, man. We're just not corporate, we're season ticket holders. Super disappointed, doing it last year and getting to see all of our buddies again and all the friendly faces and like being there collectively. Everyone's excited, anticipating a season upcoming. It's a really good vibe. I mean, it's just like it gives more of the local community a chance to go see this team, start getting involved in everything. So it's a bummer. I understand you got to pay the bills, and ultimately corporate sponsors will be bringing in more money than the Verde Hill contingent. So I understand it. Obviously disappointed. It's basically our preseason. It's a preseason to get ready for slamming beers at Q2 and cheering. So
yeah, and potentially we could be there 2 weeks from the Louisville match because NYCFC does play a preseason match in Austin, I believe, on the 17th. But that one might be at Q2 as well. Who knows? As a warm up. So we'll see. I got my fingers crossed that we're gonna get one Verde Hill match this preseason. So we knew that Davide Masi over there in Italy working for DiMarzio had put out the report that Damian Las was going to sign an extension with Austin and be loaned to Louisville City. So we thought, that news has got to be coming here before this match. And then on Monday, sure enough, Austin FC announced that the club agreed to a new contract with goalkeeper Damian Las, who signed a 3-year guaranteed deal with Austin through the end of 2026 with a 2027 option, and was subsequently loaned to Louisville City FC for the 2024 season. Damian's going to remain in training until Friday and then officially join Louisville when the team arrives in Austin on Saturday. So I do think we're going to see Damian Las in net at Q2 for an opponent here on Saturday. But ultimately, obviously, we've discussed this at length when the Masi report came out, and this is great news.
Oh, it is fantastic news. I know we're going to get into the Wolff presser a little later here. But man, it's just great to see that he went to a club that is successful, that has a level of integrity and competition that they are always putting forth in their regular season games as well as their training. Coach mentions knowing the head coach quite well and respecting the way that he goes about his business, retaining Damian and understanding that if we have an injury, he's coming back. You get him this reps. He's obviously too good for MLS Next Pro right now. We can't just have him sitting on the bench here, not getting game reps, because he needs to continue this trajectory where he's eventually in the net at Q2 for us, making big saves. And I totally believe in that. And this is a part of that longer term vision for us. And it's wonderful business. Obviously going to be rooting for Damian throughout the season here for USL, and then looking forward to the day that we welcome him back.
Yep, absolutely. And as you mentioned in there, as a condition of the loan agreement, Austin may recall Damian Las from Louisville at any point throughout the 2024 season. If they do that and exercise the one-time recall option, the loan would be terminated and Las would then occupy a supplemental roster spot on the Austin roster. So, yeah, man. And I know there was some discussion about the Louisville goalkeeper and how I believe he set the rookie USL record last year with 13 clean sheets. And before the news we got today on Wednesday, my kind of take on that was, that's great. But you look at Louisville as a whole, right? Clean sheets are cool, but they were smack in the middle of the league, 12th out of 24 teams in goals allowed last year. So it's not like this Oliver Zemla is the keeper's name there for Louisville. It's not like he was somebody that could not be overtaken. I expected Damian to do so. And I think that one of the points I made yesterday was if Damian couldn't overtake USL keeper, he's a little bit further from being our starter than we thought anyways. But and now it's fine. But now the road is clear, because on Wednesday morning, the Philadelphia Union acquired Oliver Zemla from Louisville City. So again, I'm not familiar with the rest of the depth chart there at Louisville City quite yet, but I think this just kind of parts the seas, so to speak, for Damian to maybe start and play every single match for Louisville this season.
Would be awesome. I hope you're ready to have your record broken, friend.
Yeah, exactly. And that was something like when the news became official on Monday, Louisville not only tweeted like a very, the text had just excitement kind of littered throughout in their tweet. They also put together a Damian Las highlight reel and post that on their social. So I think Louisville is very excited to have the services of Damian Las here this season. And that is going to certainly carve out a Damian Las weekly segment here on the North End podcast for the 2024 season. So, man, just again, it is another small piece to the future vision, the puzzle that Rodo is putting together right now, where it's not just how do we build this roster for 24 and 25, but pushing it out years on. And so that's something that I know that we're going to look at next week. I wanted to have it for this week's episode, but been down and out with COVID a little bit. Looking forward, kind of making a chart of the depth chart by year, because we've got a couple guys now under contract through 26, 27. I don't know if it's Biru that has the 28 option, but it'll be good to visualize kind of that future path as Rodo continues to add and subtract as we go here. But yeah, man, how about that? Like, just for all the worrying that we did about Damian maybe not getting minutes, who would have thought maybe Rodo knows what he's doing?
Yeah, there we go. Perfection. We'll take it.
So let's talk a little bit about that Josh Wolff press availability that was Tuesday morning at practice. The first thing that he talked about, and I believe it was Phil who asked the first question, as he does at the first media availability when Phil wasn't there. Yeah. I know Coach Wolff was like, "Where's Phil?" Normally he's the first question. So Phil was asking about what fans can expect from the offensive configuration this year, because obviously that was a big frustration last year. The increase in crosses, the decrease in finishing, the still top 5 amount of chances that the team created with those crosses. And Coach responded like this. He says, tactically, talking about offensively, we've evolved and changed in many, many ways. But then he continued and said, I don't look at the attacking being the problem. I look at the defending being the problem. He said individual defending last year was shocking at the end. Our group defending was shocking. So we've been working diligently on that in the first 2 weeks of preseason. And like, look, man, I know they will work on the offensive stuff, and they are mixing that in. It's not all defense here through the first 2 weeks. Yeah. I would like to hear about and certainly see some different ideas in the attack, and I'm sure we will. But it's to me, it's very positive that the coaching staff, I assume with the help of Rodo, you probably don't need Rodolfo Borrell to know that we needed improvements defensively, both like talent-wise, health-wise, tactically, etc. The fact that this has been the key focus through the first 2 weeks, to me, is just promising to hear. And it remains to be seen whether or not it's lip service or the guys are actually, improving in that area. Coach said Tuesday was just a strength day. It was a physical day where they were doing a lot of contact in those drills and seeing how guys responded mentally and physically. So, it's a lot of this stuff can be preseason fluff, but at least it's good fluff. Whereas last year we're talking about, Johan Romagna not being fit and Claudio Reyna blackmailing folks and all that stuff. So I choose to look at this a little positively.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to be a soccer genius to know that our defense was an absolute mess last year. Set piece defense was absolutely abysmal. Coach didn't really, spare any words there, saying it was shocking because it was shockingly bad. It was efforts and decisions made on the defensive side of the ball that are not akin to being a good MLS club. So I'm glad that he, has placed a point of emphasis on the defensive side of the ball this offseason. I was interested to see what he had to say about the offense there, and that, he touches on Seba leaving like 6 or 7 goals out there that he could have netted. The frustration that comes from that and how it kind of carries over to the rest of the team. So look, I think that when he pointed out the different formations that we've used tactically to try to generate offense lends a huge talking point to how we were upset last year that nothing was changing, but we were doing all kinds of different things to try to get the ball in the net. It just really wasn't happening at a level where we were giving up goals on the other side to maintain
right.
pace. So I was very satisfied with that answer. Again, it's going to come down to how it looks on the pitch, not necessarily what coach is saying, before our first game has even kicked off. So it's going to take some time. I know that a lot of guys on the defensive side of the ball had really bad years last year. Like Julio, it was his worst year in green and black, in my opinion. Obviously, dealing with the injuries that we dealt with as well did not help us. But the effort, the concerted focus to be locked in on that side of the ball is very good.
Yeah, and he didn't, only mention Seba in terms of the goals that he left out there last year. I think it was Landon who asked the question about the striker depth chart, kind of following up on the pre-Florida availability, where he was like, yeah, we don't have plans to bring in a striker. Like we might get one. If we don't, we're going to roll with who we have. And so the question was kind of like, okay, so like Zardes is there. What else are we going to do at the position if we don't get anybody else? And he mentioned, I think to me, it was more telling who he didn't mention. He said, Driussi, Emi Rigoni, and then Hadar Obrian, who he called Obi. So there's your Hadar Obrian nickname there, Obi. He said those are the backup options at the 9 for now. And the fact that he did not mention a guy like Sebastian Pino, again, we have been kind of all over this for months now. Like there is a significant gap between the next pro level and MLS, and there are a very few number of players that make that jump. But it's not, and he said, it's not impossible. He's not closing the door on anybody being able to earn a spot on the first team, but kind of just still pushing the idea that none of the fans should be counting on any of these FC2 guys to be playing minutes for the first team, at least as of this moment.
Yeah, and look, man, this has been the standard operating procedure for him going with these pressures lately is if it's a lineup thing, if it's a roster construction thing, you can go ask Rodo. Right? Yep. That's what you can go and do. I like that he is saying that we're not closing the door because, Yes, of course. While it may be a small possibility that one of these guys can make a big jump and start making an impression and earn their way on the first team club, it's very unlikely. But without closing that door, if you close that door, then there's a 0% chance. So I like that he's still open to the idea. Again, it's good experience for these guys to get in and work with the first team. And to your point about the depth chart there, to me, after hearing that, it seems like Obi is the most intriguing player there for me to get minutes at the 9. Obviously, we know Seba can do it.
Yeah.
Does it provide the most optimal lineup to have him up there at the 9 and not in the position where he's kind of our life link from our back line into our attacking phase? So I think optimally, Hot Air at the fucking 9 can provide a lot of speed that we have lacked for years and years and years. And he
can stretch the field for sure.
Yep, he talked about verticality. He talked about increasing team speed, which was one of the main things that I was like, yeah, this is great to get this kid. Like he's a fast dude and he can really stretch the field. So that's awesome. He's talking about getting him with runs in front of the back line as well as behind the back line, mentioning that the way Dallas plays is a little different than how we'd like to do it. But that Hot Air was very open to that. And he made his goals clear as well. And that's good communication to me. So I'm really intrigued at this prospect to see Obi up there at the 9, getting some time there, because we do have guys at those winger positions, especially if you see CJ take this jump, where it's like we have more depth there and we can tinker at that 9. Obviously, Giassi, you're not going to get 34 games out of him. It doesn't matter if he stays healthy the entire season. He's going to require rest. He is going to require times where he's not out there on the pitch. And we need somebody to be able to fill in that position. And this is the most interesting kind of development that I've seen with this 9, story saga kind of going on.
Yeah. I still think we can pick up some veteran on a 1+1, right? Because again, like the reason we're not seeing all of the roster holes, all of the cap, all of the GAM being used and filled is because we're looking to the future, right? You don't want to lock up. We just got rid of a bunch of bad contracts. And there's some other ones that maybe not necessarily bad, but big salary cap numbers coming off the books at the end of 2024 as well. We don't want to continue going through that same cycle. So you're going to have to make it through this first half of the season a little bit thin. And look, I get it that some fans are going to be frustrated by that, but like we have to see the bigger picture with it, because there are no signings they can go out and get based on the rules. The team has money. The team has money. The team wants to compete for championships year in and year out. You don't do that by blowing everything that they just built up in the offseason and kind of, mortgaging the extra space they're going to get at the end of this year too, by trying to go from worst to first, I think, in the matter of one window.
Absolutely. And I mean, honestly, getting to that point where we have inefficient contracts come off the books.
Yes.
It's partially the largest play of the offseason right now, right? Mm-hmm. Like this is like we have been building to this consecutively. And if you got a chance to read the article that was on Rodo on ESPN.
Oh, yeah, the Jeff Carlisle. Yeah.
It all kind of starts to come together and you start to see a larger picture, right? Like Rodo in that article, he identifies that we have found tons of players that we like, that we want to bring in, but we just can't right now. So again, a little patience to start this season. Hopefully we can get some really nice results, some surprising results, sneak up on a few teams. That'd be great. And find ourselves right in that pack. Again, this is a league that is based on parity. Like you aren't going to see 3-4 teams just running away with this on either conference and blowing everyone else out of the water, and your chances for a playoff spot are gone. So it's a long season. We're going to have to temper expectations to begin and keep building. And I'm super confident in that. And like I said, you hear what Josh is saying. You see what Rodo's saying with the articles, whatever's coming out about him, and it starts to paint a larger picture where it's like, okay, this is what we're looking to build and where we're looking to go.
We also got some injury updates on Leo and John. Leo, previously unreported surgery. Coach said Leo had hernia surgery in the offseason, so he was just a little bit behind when we got back into Austin. So he's good now. He's been taking part in trainings full on, and he's available to play this weekend against Louisville for some minutes. And then updating the previous Jean Kolmanich timeline, apparently Jean is going to get out there for some limited minutes against Louisville as well. So good to know. I think that clearly that is what happened with Leo out in the European qualifiers in November, right? Yeah. Played the first match, sat the second, and the 2 to 3 month timeline for a sports hernia surgery lines up with him coming back and being fully cleared here at the beginning of February. So great to see that both of those guys are going to be worked in this coming Saturday.
Absolutely great to see. I'm excited for both of them. Get some game reps, get back up to speed, baby. That's beautiful.
We also got some brief media availability for Damian Las and Hodder Obrion, and just wanted to highlight what Damian had to say about the news that came out on Monday. He said, "I'm very grateful that Austin gave me the opportunity to sign a new contract here. It's a long-term project for me. Going to Louisville is something that helps me bridge the gap between MLS Next Pro and MLS. I had a good year last year, but now it's going to be able to prove this year that I'm ready to play men's football at a higher level." It's good to hear. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if privately Damian was frustrated that, winning the Next Pro Championship, goalkeeper of the year, best 11, that wasn't good, earning the backup job in 2023 at the end of the season, that wasn't good enough to say, hey, I'm the one that's going to go compete with Brad now. I could understand if privately he had some frustration there, but at least he's putting forward the right attitude. And I think clearly he's had conversations. He mentioned talking with Rodolfo Borrell about this plan. And I also imagine that the new contract extension eases some of that frustration too, because it is very clear, I think, that he is the goalkeeper of the future for this club if he continues on the trajectory that he's on.
Yeah, I was going to say a mature answer. I'm not necessarily on board with him potentially being frustrated behind closed doors about that, just because I think that he should have an understanding as well if there's a large jump, there's a huge gap, and being in touch with reality in that regard is a positive thing, and it's mature to be able to understand. It's like, okay, I'm not there yet, but clearly this club sees something in me. Clearly this club believes in my development, and continuing on that path and then eventually reaping the rewards down the road. I mean, Josh even says it when the Damian question comes up in his presser, where he talks about this is our keeper for the future. We are building for him to be back here in the Verde, saving shots, doing what he does for us. So I'm very excited for him again, obviously the opportunity, and I hope that he just makes the most of it. And that's all he can really do right there.
Not counting against the cap through 2027. Pretty good business.
Pretty dang good business.
You mentioned that Jeff Carlisle article on ESPN where he did a little bit of a profile on Rodolfo Borrell. Those quotes were from November, so a little bit of a different timeline from where Austin FC fans are existing at the moment. But a couple of things that stuck out to me. He spoke about his desire to open up younger age groups for academies here in the United States, kind of comparing and contrasting. Over there in Europe, you've got academies at the U6 age level. Of course, Austin's youngest academy team is U12. And I thought the other thing that stuck out to me that was really nice, of course, he talked about the both he and then Jeff Carlisle kind of editorialized a little bit about the salary cap restraints that Austin has, some of the hurdles that they have gone through, some of the swings and misses they have had there from a cap perspective. But Rodo talked about the influence around a club from the community, right? No matter where you are, whether you're in Spain or in England or here in Austin. And in particular with Austin, he talked about the Latino influence in the city and how that needs to be taken into consideration, all the way to the style of play, not just the social media of the club and the messaging and stuff, but that needs to have an effect on the style of play. And that was something that was really encouraging to me. Because I don't know if I would have ever thought about that before, but it makes sense to me as, the world's most popular sport, right? And having a very educated part of the fan base who, from that Latino community, I just think I think fans should be excited about that Rodolfo Borrell understands the importance of the community, not just around this club, but just in the global, the global side of the sport.
I'm going to disagree with you there. That was like my least favorite part of the article.
Okay, well, tell me why.
Maybe this is just the cultural difference showing. Like if you win ugly, like I'm fine with that. Like it's Al Davis, win baby win. Like
Yeah.
like, that's part of what it is over here. And I think the frustration that we saw from last season could very easily boil over because creativity is such a vague kind of word to describe play.
Sure.
Like, there's so many different ways to be creative on a soccer field. Like, is it individual creativity? Do we have flashes of brilliance from a player who's like really getting people up out of their seats? Are we playing creatively in regard to how they were playing in Manchester City? So I would say, like, I didn't hate it. I didn't was like, well, what? But at the same time, I was like, I don't want to be making too many decisions based on what the fan base wants because we're so reactive. Like,
right.
It's win or loss and it changes everyone's mood for the whole week. So I wasn't too thrilled with that response. Again, like he talks about a bit of a cultural, lost in translation kind of thing where we don't have kids specializing in soccer at the age of 6. And it's like, well, yeah, this isn't the UK. What else are you going to play? Like fucking polo, like we got real sports over here, friend. So I thought that was interesting that he touched on that, and obviously he brings up that like Barca and those clubs have the U6s, and like these kids are getting in there and getting going, and then he kind of was like, hey, US, you guys could dominate this sport as well if you were willing to like have kids and coaches in the positions that they need to be in to develop players long term. So I don't know. I didn't get too excited about that part. I just thought that it was just, I don't know, maybe pandering a little bit. But that's, I'm entitled to my opinion.
Yeah, you absolutely are. And I would encourage everybody who didn't read the article. I think typically your ESPN MLS coverage is very bland and not super, there's not a ton of depth to it, but I thought this was well worth the read.
Yes.
For many reasons. So, I think quick Google search, probably ESPN Rodolfo Borrell probably pulls it up.
That's what I
your
did.
first. There you go. So, I guess I'm kind of we've almost 38 minutes in here on episode 116, and we haven't talked about the new away kit being leaked by EAFC, which formerly known as FIFA. Let me go ahead and pull up here because I believe it was our friends at We Are Austin TV who first posted this onto Twitter. So here's the little picture of the new kit. Let me get a couple zooms here if I can. It's kind of a low quality image there, but you can see kind of cream color right there. A little bit of a different shade of green on the collar, on the sleeves. Looks kind of like an old school like softball uniform to me, like a softball t-shirt. And I know like with any kit, right, there are mixed reactions amongst the fan base. Maybe you and I will disagree here again. I like this a lot. I think it looks very clean. The stain meter is up to red again, back from the first season when we had the white kits. I think that was called the Legends kits. But I guess off the top, before we get into, I do want to talk a little bit about the jock tag there of an armadillo and some of the stuff relating to that. But what are your takeaways here with the 2024-25 away kit being leaked?
Crisp. I like it. I'm going to look good in that. That's for damn sure. Don't pour any beer on me. All right, boys.
So now you're on board with me on that, huh?
Well, we can pour beer on you, just not me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the stains are going to be rough. Going to have to take the jersey off when we get that post-game Taco Bell.
Yeah, so the rumor had been that the jock tag here is an armadillo. And then our buddy, the stat man, right, Tim Thompson, also found on the Verde Van website. I guess I shouldn't have closed that out quite that soon on the YouTube. Here we go.
The stat man.
On the Verde Van website, you can buy this shirt, which has an armadillo on the front, and on the back it says Live on Tour 2024 Austin FC, the schedule on the back there. So I think it's safe to say that the connection with the city on this year's away kit is going to be related to Armadillo World headquarters, which I know you did not know, or I think still don't really know what that is. It's an old music venue here in Austin. But let me take you just through a couple notes I have here that have been compiled from my limited knowledge on it, my father's firsthand knowledge, our buddy Aggie's firsthand knowledge on it, all giving me some more information. Yeah, so you got the Fighting Leslies. Shout out to the Leslies.
Yeah, got to compliment this today. Just today, walking the mooch dog.
There you go.
Right. Hey, that's a nice shirt, man.
It's great merch.
I said, thanks, friend.
Yeah. So, Armadillo World headquarters was a music venue in Austin, just like actually kind of near you off Riverside there. It was like, where Sandy's Hamburgers is at on Barton Springs. It's one block east, is a block behind where the old Threadgills was. I know you were a huge Threadgills fan when I introduced you to that on Christmas Day, like 8 years ago, back when Threadgills was still around. So the Armadillo was a major influence on the Austin music scene from 1970 to 1980. It was only around for that decade. It was founded by a guy named Eddie Wilson and then assisted by artist Jim Franklin. And Jim Franklin, I believe still around, he was the one responsible for establishing the connection between Austin and Armadillos through his artwork. And then also entertainment attorney, Mike Tollison, whose son was buddies with me back in middle school, Max Tollison. So shout out to Max. Haven't seen Max in a long time. At its peak, the Armadillo World headquarters, and I hope, I had a couple folks, some younger Austinites asking, what is Armadillo? So hopefully they're tuned in here, getting the little history lesson. The amount at its peak, I found this one off the internet. This was not from EG or Aggie. At its peak, the amount of Lone Star draft beer sold at the Armadillo was second only to the Alamo Dome, or the Astrodome rather, in Houston.
Oh my God.
And Neiman Marcus even offered a line of Armadillo branded products. So Armadillo World headquarters, truly a global phenomenon. Some of the maybe bigger names of the acts that came through there in the 70s, Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, Ray Charles, Stevie Ray Vaughan, ZZ Top, Freddie King, Frank Zappa, Bruce Springsteen, AC/DC, The Clash, Joe Ely. Obviously, the list goes on. But like I told you before we started the episode, I would not be here if it wasn't for Armadillo World headquarters, because my father, when he decided to leave Pittsburgh and start grad school, he was between Austin and Los Angeles. And he actually chose to come to Austin because of Armadillo World headquarters. And the week after he arrived, he went to his first show at Armadillo HQ, B-52s with the Talking Heads.
Oh, shit.
Yep. September 15th, 1979. And he sent me a YouTube video. That concert is on YouTube in full. So I was watching a little bit of that last night.
Awesome.
And he said, I can quote this from my dad. He said, quote, "That night made me realize I had found home." And he's been here ever since.
Wow.
Shout out to Pops. The Armadillo always struggled financially, and that was mostly blamed on the combination of large guaranteed payments to the acts, cheap tickets, and poor promotion. The final concert at the Armadillo took place on New Year's Eve, 1980, featuring Asleep at the Wheel, who, of course, they still around, open up every ACL festival, the first band every single time. and Commander Cody and the Lost Planet Airmen. You can also see highlights from that show on YouTube. Was checking that out earlier today. And depending on who you talk to, that final show ended between 4 a.m. and dawn. Sounds like, I think that's the nightly party at the Armadillo, legendary. And that was, the Armadillo was in an old National Guard armory that turned into a skate rink that then turned into the music venue. And that was raised in 1981 for a 13-story high-rise office building, which I believe is still standing there today, but there is a little memorial plaque outside for the Armadillo. So just a little bit of background into Armadillo World headquarters. It does seem like that is going to be the tie-in to this new away kit for the next 2 years. And again, as an Austinite who is only here because of Armadillo World headquarters, I'm about it.
That's very cool. The roots run deep. That's awesome.
Yeah. So looking forward to the kit, which I believe February 15th is the day that's going to be officially unveiled. I do, again, as always, when these leaks come out, feel sorry for the media team that I'm sure was working on a lot of stuff for that release. But it was 20 kits leaked by EA there. And I think they were pretty much all confirmed when Charlotte, the day of, put out a little meme basically confirming that, yeah, that's our kit. So looking forward to that. Anything else for you on the kit leak?
No, sir.
Last thing on the Austin side here, let me pull up the Leagues Cup Twitter because we got the Leagues Cup draw here today. And we'll share this for the YouTube as well. And as you can imagine with Austin and the seeding here being based on your finish in the previous season, Austin did not get a friendly draw in the Leagues Cup for 2024. How about little Rayados there, CF Monterrey, and then Pumas.
Why not?
Alongside Austin FC. Leagues Cup this year taking place July 26th to August 25th. So obviously a ways away. The team will look to, we should have our summer signings either on the way or in Austin by then. So could be a new look Austin by then. There are also some new quirks to be a little bit more friendly to the top end Liga MX sides, where I believe clubs like Monterrey will have, they won't be able to host. All of these games are still in the United States and Canada, which obviously, we want to see some of those games down the road take place in Mexico. But I believe those top 4 Liga MX teams will have what they're calling hub rights, where I think they can choose where they get to play their matches throughout the tournament, so they don't have to do all the crazy travel that some of those teams did, to their detriment for sure, in the 2023 edition of the tournament. So I see nothing in the press release that is confirming that these games will be in Austin. I would think there's a good chance they will be here because I think probably both Monterrey and Pumas may almost be home games for those teams if they're played in Austin, but we'll see. None of that is confirmed yet. But what were your takeaways here? Obviously, it can't be, hell yeah, we're going to win this group right off the top with that kind of draw.
Yeah, I think I said it to you before we got on here that it's going to be a party. It might not necessarily be our party. Those two teams. Look, I fell in love with that Monterrey club after last year's Leagues Cup, and I was rooting for them pretty heavily in the 2023 format after we were bounced unceremoniously. Yep. I like this cup. I really do. I am a big fan of it. I think it's great for the league. I think that these changes they're making now with the upper Liga MX teams being able to choose a hub is great, because one of my talking points last year that kind of took validity away from this cup was that we were making these dudes play someone in Texas and then fly up to, LA to play a different team, wherever it may be. I don't have the exact, travel schedules and all that, but it's just a completely unfair advantage for the MLS teams there. But man, I'm super excited about this cup. I know that this is a brutal draw. So I guess the expectation has already been lifted of potentially getting out of group stage here, which, is a good thing. You can just enjoy some good soccer here. And, again, a very long season. We have window coming up where we can retool and stuff. So, I'm not necessarily putting anything into stone at this point, but I really like this cup. I'm really excited about it. I'm ready for it.
Yeah, and for the second year in a row, only 2 groups with 2 Liga MX teams and 1 MLS team. Austin drawing the short straw there. And then the other one, East 3, Inter Miami taking on Tigres Puebla. So obviously we'll talk more Leagues Cup in the summer, but with that draw coming out today. And I guess the last thing I'll add here, I kind of like our draw because there's no expectations now.
For sure.
0.
Yeah.
And in the history of this club, we have played a lot better when we have 0 expectations and we're the underdog. So I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just trying to, ever the optimist, trying to see the positives in it, but none of us are going to be going into these matches expecting to beat Monterrey. So
no,
I kind of like it.
I'm with you. I'm excited.
Yeah, and maybe we get the little three-week break, and hopefully if you get that 3-week break this year, you don't come out and lose for another month and a half straight after that. Let's keep it pushing here, E. One last piece of Austin FC, a little ex-player news, and, player in quotation marks, I guess, because he never touched the pitch for us, but Brandon Craig, who went back to Philadelphia, and we had talked about, was on trial with Everton overseas a couple weeks ago. Yeah, let's pull him back. If you're Philly, loaned to El Paso Locomotive for the 2024 season. So would you look at that? Even Philadelphia acknowledging Brandon Craig not ready for MLS minutes this year. And even more glad that we hung on to that $125K in GAM.
Very glad.
Let's talk last business day here. Had 2 signings actually announced here on Wednesday. Austin FC 2 announcing the team signed free agent winger Anthony Garcia and free agent goalkeeper Aaron Cervantes to its MLS Next Pro roster. Anthony Garcia joins on a 2-year guaranteed deal, and Cervantes, the goalkeeper, on a 1-year guaranteed. Both players are California natives. Garcia is 20 years old, spent last year in the youth system of Santos Laguna in Liga MX, scored 3 goals in 14 appearances for Santos U23 team during the Apertura. Before arriving at Santos Laguna, Garcia tallied 42 goals and 11 assists in just 2 seasons at La Sierra University, picking up the 2022 Calpac Player of the Year honors, set the school record for goals in a single season in 2021. He was the Calpac Freshman of the Year and ranks 5th in conference history in goals scored. So a promising young winger there in Garcia. And then Aaron Cervantes, 21 years old, product of the Galaxy Academy. He signed with Orange County SC in March 2018 at age 15, making him, at the time, the youngest professional in club history. Cervantes kept 5 clean sheets in 17 USL Championship appearances across the 19 and 20 seasons before being transferred to Scottish powerhouse Rangers FC. He then rejoined the Galaxy with LA Galaxy 2 last season. He's a former U.S. Youth International. Cervantes made 4 appearances with the U17 U.S. Youth Men's National Team, representing the program at the 2019 U17 World Cup in Brazil. So the previous U17 World Cup, pre-Micah Burton, Aaron Cervantes made 4 appearances there. And man, looking at a picture of him, Cervantes looks a lot older than 21, but there's certainly some goalkeeper competition there between Cervantes and Marcus Alstrup now, and kind of replenishing the wings a little bit with Anthony Garcia. Your thoughts on this morning's signings?
Welcome, boys. Happy to have you here. Looking forward to seeing you up at the pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. We also had, let me pull up Austin FC2 news because, where is that? Las Vegas Lights, which is a USL side in the USL Championship. They hired away, where is their news here? Dennis Sanchez, who was one of our assistants for FC2 last year, will now be the head coach for Las Vegas Lights FC. That was also announced on Monday. So congrats to Coach Sanchez there. Just more good things coming to all of the members of that FCTO championship squad last year. Well deserved. And another USL team that we're going to keep our eyes on.
Absolutely. That's great.
And then I will shout out Kike de la Cruz. That is the name of the U15 player who scored that banger free kick goal. And I didn't get his name before last week's episode. So I just wanted to shout out Kike in that victory over the U15 FC Dallas side. Once again, fantastic shot. It was fun to watch, man.
Love it.
All right, let's close it out with the MLS news of the week here, as we do every preseason, and some not so great news from our rivals to the north. First, this came out the evening of our last episode, so we didn't get to discuss it, but we'll do it now. I don't know if you saw this. Spartak Moscow made a $13 million bid for Jesus Ferreira. All sides would have accepted, but the league stepped in and said no, nixed the deal. I see your look. That was my look as well. The only thing I can think of, it's some sort of political sanction, what have you, like that the league doesn't want to be doing business with a Russian side at the moment. That's my best guess. I don't think it has fully come out why the league nixed that, but very interesting development there. Clearly, that's a huge offer, obviously, 13 mil. And the fact that Dallas was ready to move on, and so was Jesus reportedly. Clearly, they're okay with selling him.
Sending him off to fucking Russia?
Yeah, right. And that he was like, yeah, right now, let me go play in Moscow.
That is wild. 13 million. Holy smokes. I don't know if we'll ever get a good answer on why that got nixed, but man, that is interesting.
Well, and rumor turned into confirmed news. Dallas does sign Peter Musa from Benfica, $9.5 million fee up front. Club record signing for FC Dallas for the 25-year-old forward. Bad news for Austin FC and the rest of the Western Conference.
It makes sense why they were trying to move Jesus then.
Yep. Yeah. But now, fucking pairing those two guys, damn it.
That's interesting. I'm interested to see how Jesus pairs with him like that because, he plays that kind of false nine position really well.
Yeah, that second striker.
Yeah, and like a solo kind of role. So hopefully it sucks for them.
Yeah. Well, I'm also thinking about, Alan Velasco, the ACL injury, and like if he comes back in September and they still have Jesus and you're facing that three-headed monster, even coming off an ACL tear for Velasco.
Yeah.
Don't like to see it.
Nope.
The Revs, New England, are expected to sign Albert Elise on a non-DP deal. So that's good news that Elise is going to stay in the East and away from the Houston Dynamo, but non-DP deal, that's some pretty good business there for the Revs, I think.
That's very good business.
And more good business for the Whitecaps. Ryan Gauld, the Scottish Messi, right? Signing an extension through 2027. So we've got more Ryan Gauld in the Western Conference to look forward to, or whatever the opposite of that is. Yeah, very, very good player. And then Seattle signing a guy that a lot of Austin FC fans wanted to take a shot on, Danny Masovsky, going up there to Seattle. I don't believe he's been officially announced yet, but it'll be very interesting. That'll be one of the opposing players that I'm immediately going to search for when we get the salary dump here in a couple months. I want to know what it took to get Danny Masovsky. So, yeah, and the rich get richer, man. Seattle, I'm starting to think about when we do our predictions for the Western Conference here in a couple of weeks. Seattle might be one for me, man.
They're usually up there.
Benjamin Kramaski, out 2 to 3 months with a hernia surgery. But, man, into Miami. We said it last week with Farias, like we're not taking joy in any injuries here, but soccer gods
Yeah.
Early signs, man. I'm just saying, I don't know how it's going to work out. Tomorrow on Thursday, actually, is Al Nassr versus Inter Miami. You can watch that on Apple TV. You're probably listening to this. The match probably already happened. But, I think it's noon Central. Ronaldo versus Messi. I'm going to be watching that for sure.
That is awesome. Yeah, I'll tune in for that.
DC United, no longer the Fighting Runes, but signing a Finnish international defensive midfielder, Matti Peltola. Is 21 years old, will be a young DP. He's got 5 caps for Finland, so certainly familiar with our Finns is Peltola. So DC getting a little bit, some reinforcements there. Then LAFC, we knew they weren't going to be stagnant for long. They tweeted on Monday, you know how they do, like we do the green smoke, they do hats that they send to their guys.
Yep.
They did a freaking tweet with their equipment guy picking 3 hats out of the bucket. It's like, oh my God. Can you imagine a triple smoke tweet from Freeport? So first LAFC getting Edward Atuesta on loan from Palmeiras. He was previously an MLS Best 11 winner in 2019 at LAFC. They sold him, I believe, to Palmeiras. So can you imagine selling up, let's say we sell Danny Pereira on over to Europe, and then 2 years later we get him back on loan and we sell him, but we still get his services. Oh man, this is bad news. I think
it's bad news for sure.
They're also finalizing a deal. Here's some nepotism for you, E. Certainly better than the Neville nepotism we talked about last week. LAFC finalizing a deal to sign Colombian youth international forward Tomas Angel on a free transfer. The 20-year-old had 3 goals at the U20 World Cup. He is the son of former Red Bulls forward and current LAFC scout Juan Pablo Angel. So there you go. Rich getting richer.
Yeah, he's probably good.
Yeah. Blackburn signing Duncan Maguire from Orlando City. Ooh. $4 million fee plus potentially $2.5 million in add-ons, and Orlando City retaining a sell-on percentage. So that might be the best business we've seen in the league over the last year and a half. Can you imagine having the 6th pick and selling him for $4 million a year later? What the hell?
And then retaining some percentage if he gets sold, that's ridiculous. I mean, shout out to Duncan McGuire for what he did, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
He put it out there.
Absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised to see him in the mix with the U.S. national team in the coming years, as one of those backup strikers.
I agree.
Then just today, 2 moves. DC making another move, acquiring defender Chris McVeigh in a trade with Miami in exchange for an international slot and some conditional GAM. And then Chicago Fire, out of nowhere, signing Hugo Cypers from Ghent. $12 million purchase with another potential $2 million in add-ons. One of the most expensive buys in league history. Chicago's got their DP striker.
Whew. All right. Well, let's talk about building toward the future.
Yeah. I mean, hey, man, summer, it could come at any time. But again, that summer window, I do think we're going to see maybe a buy down of Alex Ring and hopefully our DP striker. Maybe $12 million. Who knows?
Yeah, I was going to say, you see the figures being thrown around. That's encouraging for the league as a whole. Ownership willing to spend to bring talent in here. In that regard, it's great. Obviously, you see these good players going to other good teams, and that's not too encouraging or exciting. But, hopefully we cut a big check soon.
Yeah.
What was our Miguel there?
3.5.
3. Oh, Jesus.
Our offer for Miguel Borja, 3.5.
All right. Well, I'm making numbers up, apparently.
Well, we'll see. We'll obviously keep our eyes on it. And we'll be back here next week talking about everything that happens in the Austin FC universe, recapping what we can glean from the Louisville exhibition at Q2 this Saturday, talking Austin FC news, everything else in the MLS space. Appreciate you guys tuning in, sticking with us through my COVID brain fog here on episode 116. Everybody, enjoy your weekend. Get outside. Enjoy some of this beautiful weather we're having. And then come back inside and join us next Wednesday for episode 117 of the North End Podcast. We will see you guys then. Until then, he's E, and I'm Zach. Vamos Austin FC, everybody. Goodbye.